Hello everyone, I'm Eva Seyler. I am the author of The War in Our Hearts, a World War I historical novel that is re-releasing August 4, 2021. And I wanted to do a series of videos related to the book before it comes back out. And this first video is just going to be about World War I in general. A while back, I polled my social media audience and I said, what's the first thing that you think of when you hear the phrase World War I or the Great War? What first comes to your mind? And these are some of the answers that they gave me. Trenches was one of the most common ones. Several people said trenches, trench warfare, muddy trenches, things like that. Helmets, both the flat and the German helmets with the Pickelhaube on the top. The total breakdown and remaking of Europe. Many wasted young lives. Mud came up a couple of times. Someone mentioned several World War I poets, such as Siegfried Sassoon and Wilfred Owen, Rupert Brooke. Poppies was another common one that people said. The Treaty of Versailles. There are lots and lots. I'm not going to read all of them, but just a few. The Western Front, gas, poison gas, mustard gas, Flanders Fields, were some of the answers I got. And I'd be very interested to know what your initial response would be. If you drop it in the comments, what's the first thing you think of when you hear about World War I? I would love to know, because this is kind of an ongoing experiment that I love to do. So anyway, all of those things that people answered aren't really all that far off from my own experience. Prior to 2017, when I used to think of World War I had vague, shadowy mental images about the Lusitania and trenches and dogfighting and flimsy biplanes. And all of that was largely due to the fact that when you watch a lot of 1930s movies, I was really into classical movies for a long time in my early 20s. All of the 1930s war movies are pretty much World War I because World War II hadn't happened yet. If you would be interested in a video about World War I movies of the 1930s, tell me in the comments, because that's something I would totally do. Anyway, just like pretty much everyone else, World War II is what has our collective attention. It's what we think about, what gets talked about, what gets written about, and that's with good reason, because it was a big deal. But I think we've largely forgotten that World War II, one of the main reasons that it happened was because of the unresolved disaster that was World War I. We've forgotten, and so I kind of am on a bit of a personal mission to try and help people remember the First World War. And my book, The War in Our Hearts, is part of my attempt to do that. So as far as my own personal obsession with World War I, that started in early 2017. In January that year, I read a book by Barbara W. Tuchman called The Zimmermann Telegram. And shortly into the book, I realized I have no idea what this book is even about. I barely understood when it was set. I didn't have a clue what the Zimmermann Telegram was. I don't know what I even thought. Why I even picked up the book, I really wish I could remember, but I don't. But based on the responses to my question at the beginning of this video, it seems that nobody else really knows what the Zimmermann Telegram was either, which fascinates me. That I ask the question, what do you think of? Nobody says the Zimmermann Telegram. So, let's talk about the Zimmermann Telegram. It was not the sinking of the Lusitania, actually. It was the Zimmermann telegram that really got the USA into the war. President Wilson was adamant that the US should remain neutral, even after so many Americans died on the sinking of the Lusitania in 1915, in May of 1915. Even after that, he didn't want anything to do with the war. So there's a lot going on in the Zimmermann telegram drama, but the nutshell version is that the German Foreign Secretary, Arthur Zimmermann, sent a coded telegram to Mexico offering Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico back to Mexico in exchange for joining Germans in the fight against the Allies. British intelligence got a hold of the telegram, decoded it, sent it back to the United States, and the US flew into a flap, but it still took 4 months for the US to actually get into the war. So anyway, reading this book about the Zimmermann telegram made me really aware of a gap in my understanding of history, because World War I I don't really remember learning a whole lot about it when I was in school. So this book sparked this obsession, pursuit of knowledge about World War I that 10 months later I started writing The War in Our Hearts, and I've accumulated a couple of books since then on the topic. I have over 50 books in my personal collection, and that's not counting the 30 or so that I've borrowed from the library and don't own. There's a lot of amazing nonfiction out there, but not a whole lot of really great fiction. And they say, write what you want to read, so that's what I did with my book. It has come to my attention since 2017 that there is another, more updated book about the Zimmermann telegram. It's called The Zimmermann Telegram, and it's by Thomas Boghart. And I haven't read, you can see I haven't gotten very far into it yet. It's very scholarly, and it takes a lot of brain power. But it's really interesting. This author has had access to information that was still classified when Barbara Tuchman wrote her book, so it promises to be a lot more accurate and have a lot of corrections to things that were correct to the best of her knowledge, but now there's more information to go on, so we know that there was more to it, and so I'm very interested to finish reading this and see how it compares. So in my next video, I'm going to talk about some of my favorite World War I novels that I have read, of the ones that I've read, and possibly mention a few nonfiction ones as well that I really like. But for sure, I'll talk about the fiction. So I will see you on the next video, and thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and turn on notifications if you want to get notified when my next video's up. I'll see you next time.